welcome to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Mick. I'm also an alcoholic, and we're both serving as your secretary today. Please join us in a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic, both inside and outside this meeting.
Jane, I think, is reading the preamble for us today. There you go, Jane.
Good evening, my name's Jane, I'm an alcoholic. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thank you, Jane. A very warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous.
The chat is now disabled until the end of the meeting, except for the meeting host. If you feel the meeting security is at risk at any time during the meeting, please private message one of the co-hosts so that they can check it out.
And that's it, folks. As you know, it's this is our old timers meeting, and so there's very little introduction done. Tonight we have two speakers. It's a double payday for Alcoholics Anonymous today. We get two for the price of one. Our first speaker is over from the States, and the next speaker is from Galway. Ove, you have half an hour or thereabouts to share your experience, strength, and hope with it, or else whatever you please. And thanks a million for joining us today. Really looking forward to hearing your stories there.
Okay, you want me to start now?
Please.
Okay. My name's Obi. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is November 21st of 1974. I keep track of days. My days are 18,641 days, one day at a time. And what I do is I start with my last drunk because I was taught early or told early in my drinking that if I was to drink something in the morning, I would never have a hangover. So I always did that. I've only had one hangover, and that was when I came to in jail for my last drunk. Sometime in September, I don't know the dates, but my ex-wife informed me that she wanted me out. She wanted a divorce, and so I walked out the door. Sometime in November, I went on a drunk from September to November. Sometime in November, I went back and we got a big fight, and I stabbed my ex-wife. And so naturally, we got a divorce. I ended up in jail, and that's where I sobered up. I was in a drunk tank for a few days. I don't know how long. I was sick. They kept asking me if I needed a doctor, and I said no. Just said I had touch a flu or something, but I was going through withdrawals because I'd never ever really sobered up. I was always drunk. Even though I walked and talked and functioned and went to work and did all kinds of things. I was from a small town. And so when I was drunk and got pulled over back in those days, the cop would you'd park your car, he'd take the keys, he'd take you home and drop you off. And that's what they used to do. But when I came to in jail, they got me a lawyer and all this, and the lawyers more or less recognized, talking to everybody in that, realized that my problem wasn't that I was a criminal, it was that I was an alcoholic. And what he did was he had them in my jail cell, he had them place a big book, the 12 by 12, and all the pamphlets and that were left in there. And so when you're in jail, you have something to do, nothing to do. So they give you something to read, you read it. So I read it. And I said, well, if this is what I am, when I get out, I won't drink. So when I got out, that's the first thing I went for. And I didn't take a drink, but what I did was that was back when you had the rotary phone. I went over and dialed and the operator came on and I said, give me the nearest AA. And without hesitation, she rang me through. And so I went to a meeting and they asked me why I was there, what was wrong. I said, well, I came to in jail. They told me I stabbed my ex-wife and I don't remember doing it. And they all laughed. And I said, I'm going through a divorce, and they all laughed. And I said, I'm losing everything, and they all laughed. And I thought it was weird, but when the meeting was over with, nobody would talk to me because what I did, because that is a crime that everybody considers to be the worst crime. And so all my friends, family, nobody would talk to me. And after that meeting, they asked me to come back, and nobody was wanting anything to do with me, so I did. But then I did something that my boss did not fire me from my job. It was the only thing I didn't lose because he was my drinking buddy. And but it was what I did was I took time off from work. And the meeting that I went to, it wasn't a club, but it was a meeting that they had. They'd give you a key to be there, and you could stay there as long as you want. Well, I didn't know what else to do, so I just stayed there because I knew if I went out the doors, I'd drink. So I hung out in that place for a few weeks until I started feeling better. And for me, I thought that I'd taken the first step. And I was okay with that. And then step two for me, I was being told by everybody that I was insane. Uh, so I more or less accepted that. And then when it came to step three, I'm one of those that at that time I did not believe in a God. I'm part Native American. I grew up on the Indian reservation. And what they did was they took us out of our homes and they put us in a boarding school and they Americanized us. They took away our religion, our customs, traditions, and language. And we had to do things, excuse the expression, white man's way. And so we did that, but it gave me a hell of a resentment towards all that. For one, being taken away from the family and put in a boarding school. And if you've heard all the horrors of what the boarding schools were like for the Native Americans, it's all true. It was a living hell for us. And so what most of us did was the only thing we could do was drink and wipe it out. And we would drink until we got to what we called numb, to where you couldn't get up, you couldn't move, you just blacked everything out. And so I knew that I had that. And then so step three was very hard for me. And And I got a sponsor that he was a born again Christian, and he not only we had to get together once a week was his requirement. We'd read the big book and the good book. And for those of you who don't know what the good book is, that's the Bible. And so we would have to read both, and he knew that I hated it, but we did it. And what he started doing for me was he started pointing out to me what God was doing for me in my life. First off, the judge did not send me to prison. The judge gave me 7 years probation, suspended sentence, and which was good. And so I had lost everything. I moved in with my mom and dad, and then after 3 months, my ex-wife contacted me and said, "You can have the house. I don't want the house because it reminds me of you." So I got the house back, but she was 3 months behind on payments. So I had to borrow money to make that up. And so eventually I couldn't make all that up, and I lost the house. So that was the second time that I lost everything. And all this, I kept blaming God, that he was taking all this from me, and didn't work out that way. I started finding out that I was looking at everything wrong. And then when it came time for inventory, back in those days, the meetings that we went to, because we weren't real big, and we had we'd go out to dinner before the meeting, we'd have the meeting, and then we'd go back out to the coffee shop after the meeting. So we all knew everybody quite well. And when it came time for my fourth step, I had a hard time doing it. And they asked me why. And I said, "Well, I've never hurt anybody." And they all laughed at me. And they just said, "What did you do to your ex-wife?" And I said, "Well, she deserved it." And so they had to set me straight that nobody deserves to be stabbed or hurt. And so I had to look at my inventory differently. And what I found was, see, when I drank, I didn't like to drink with people. I might go with my coworkers over and have a drink or two, and then I'd leave and go find a bottle, go buy a bottle, and go drink by myself, because I knew I'd get so drunk I couldn't do anything. And I didn't want people to see me in that stage, because I would be so drunk I couldn't get up to even go to the bathroom. So I was disgusting. But so when people would come around me, when I was drinking and that, I would get in lots of fights. I have a sister who she was 6 months pregnant, and I threw her through a wall because she wanted me to stop drinking. My younger brother tried to stop me one night going out, and I almost killed him. And so, you know, I was a very violent drunk because I didn't want to be around people. So 6, 7, 8, and 9 were very hard for me. And back in those days, everybody in the meeting, we worked the steps together, and everybody kept asking questions, and so they had to help me with all that. And so what was really hard for me was wanted to force amends. When I made amends to my ex-wife, I get a yearly restraining order, and I contacted her and told her I needed to make amends, but I contacted her through her lawyer, and he said, well, okay, I'll get back to you. Well, a little while later, he got back and he said, okay, what she wants you to do is turn the kids, she's remarried, and she wants you to turn the kids over for adoption. And I went storming out of his office and was on my way back to work. And there was a meeting that was going on, but it was a women's meeting. But I needed a meeting because I wanted to drink at that time because I was really hurt. So I went into the meeting, it was just starting, and I said, I know this is a women's meeting, but I really need a meeting, and explain what was going on. I says, I will, if you just let me stay in the meeting because I need a meeting, I will keep quiet. And so they allowed me to stay, but because they were all women, they explained to me on a woman's point of view of why my ex-wife didn't want to be around me and didn't want me to be around the kids. So I had to take a look at that and see that, yeah, she's probably right. So I turned the kids over for adoption. And so I did that. And then want to go back to the third step because there's a part in the third step that's very important to me. And I can't find it in the book. Some of you people might be able to, but there's a part in there that says we take this step with our priest, minister, rabbi, our closed mouth, or your spiritual advisor. And because I have trouble with God, what I did was that sponsor that I talked to you about, he wasn't, I didn't ask him to be my sponsor, but I did was he became my spiritual advisor because I didn't trust anybody. And so when he read that part to me, he says, okay, what we need to do is we get down on our knees and turn your will and your life over to the care of God. And so I did that. Then I took the fourth step. Then I made the amends. And now what I do now is I have a 10-step guide that I take every day and do that because I hate making amends. So if I've hurt or harmed somebody, I try and work through that to where I don't have to go back and make amends to people. And it's because that's one thing I don't like doing is going back to somebody and admitting my faults or my wrongs. Even though I know all my character defects and everything now. But so that's where I am there. And where I am now is this has been the hardest year of my life, or the last couple years, because I had what they call long COVID, and it's attacked all my organs, and I've almost died twice. Matter of fact, one of the times they told my wife to make funeral arrangements, and so I've been very sick lately. Still am. I'm on oxygen all the time. I've kidney disease, all kinds of other problems going on because my organs are not good. And then here, not too long ago, my wife had what is called a aorta dissection, which is her aorta artery tore. And we had to rush her to the hospital, and everything worked out real good for us because what happened was the ambulance was less than a mile away from our house when they came, so they were there almost immediately, which all this saved her life. She had to be revived twice in the ambulance and once in the operating room. And they came, they told me, while we were waiting, that she probably wasn't going to make it. And she pulled through. And so now my wife and I are back to a 24-hour program. My wife's got 2 years longer in Al-Anon than I have in AA, so we've both been around a while. And so we're back to just living right now because we don't know. And so now when I leave the house or I go somewhere or whatever, I kiss her, I tell her I love her, and all of this because I do not want to leave the house in a bad note, or with friends, I don't want to leave in a bad note. And so that is where I am now. And that's basically how I do things. I still work the steps. I help people when they want me to help them. I used to be very involved in service work, and then I did it for a very long time, for probably my first 30 years. And then I got to a point to where going to all these uh, assemblies and that where you argue about everything that's going on. I told my sponsor, I said, we just go and we argue about the same things year after year, and you see the same people year after year, and and he just told me, he says, well, maybe it's time for you to back off and let the newer people do it, and you stand in the background and help that way. So that's what I do now. And it helps keep my ego in check because I still like to, because I've been around a while, and that people want us to have spiritual words, and I don't always have the right words. I still read the big book on a daily basis. I take my step 10 all the time, and there's times that I have to go back and do a 4-step also because my step 10, 11 are not complete. And it's still for me, even now today, uh it's a more of a 24-hour program for me. People get mad at me because a lot of times they'll ask me to uh, make a plan, or I have a home group I go to on Tuesday nights, and they make these plans, and I tell them, well, I'll let you know, Monday night, whether or not I'm going to do this or whatever, because they like to go out to dinner and that beforehand. There's some of us that still do things that way. But there's things that people told me that uh, uh, that I still do. Like I came on the meeting a half an hour beforehand today because Mozzie was there. And that's one that I've always been told to go to an AA meeting 30 minutes beforehand, stay 30 minutes afterwards, and always meet a new person every time you go. And those are hard things for me to do because, for one, I still like to be a loner. Even though I can't do that, I can't be an I have to be a we. And whenever I'm asked to do things, I have to say yes. And even I was doing a clothing drive for the Native Americans. I'm involved in what is called Walking the Red Road to Wellbriety, which is started by the Native Americans. And there's things that I do in other organizations. I do clothing drives, food drives, and that kind of stuff. I'm back in the mainstream of life, and I do things to help other people whenever I can. People can get upset with me, like if we're out and about and I see somebody that's bumming change, I give it to them. They say, well, they're just going to go buy booze or something. I say, well, that's not up to me. You know, so there's things that I do that I do because I'm more or less compelled to do by my higher power, which I do call God today. And I'm not a religious person, but I do consider myself a Christian now. I still can't go to church because we were on the reservation. It was rammed down our throats. So it's still hard for me to do, even though I have other spiritual advisors that are, I've had two of them that have been priests. And there are things that I do to, I collect different Bibles, besides all the AA pamphlets and that. I don't know if you could, all those green things up there, those are grapevines. My grapevines go back to 1970. They had gone back further, but the central office had wanted my earlier edition, so I gave them to them. So I not only stay sober, but I study alcoholism. I was an alcoholism counselor for a while, but I found out for me, not as a profession, it's something that I have to give away freely. And so I got out of being alcoholism counselor. But I don't know. I can't think of much more, Mozzie. So can I cut it off right there?
You can cut it off right there, my friend. No problem at all.
All right.
And thanks so much of it. When you speak about step 10, I hate apologizing to this day as well. I absolutely hate it. So I learned the prayer when I was a year sober. And the prayer was, Lord, help me to keep my big mouth shut. And if somebody's upsetting me and I want to open my mouth, I normally start nodding my head. And what I'm doing is I'm headbutting them. And I'm headbutting and I'm saying, Lord, help me to keep my big mouth shut. And it gets, if I can keep it shut, it just makes my life so much easier. Well, thanks so much. It's great to get to know you, my friend Mick.
Thanks, Ovi. Fantastic. A lot of our identification, especially with the laughter in your early meetings when you said things. Because I said to them when I came in, my wife's left me and took the children. And they said to me, well, maybe if you stop drinking, they'll, we cannot promise you this, but maybe they'll come back. And they did. They did. And she was in Al-Anon, and and I identify what you said about hangovers. I worked in a brewery and we had a spirits manager, and he used to give you port and brandy in the morning to get rid of it. So I used to go over there and see them and steal from there. But, coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, the life you older members have shown me is beyond my wildest dreams. I had to learn to put it indoors and carry on from there. Right, that'll do me, Mossy, because we got another speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Mick. Again, thanks, Ovi, for joining us today. Our next speaker is John from Galway. John's a good friend of mine. We served in St. Pat's meeting for long enough. And it's great to have you here, John. You have half an hour or so, John, so take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Mosley. University of St. Pat's, eh? Yeah. What a meeting. And room 7, awesome. Yeah. My name's John, I'm an alcoholic, and thanks for asking me along, Marcy. Uwe, that was so powerful. Thank you so much. And I identify with it, and my race identify with it as well. I was born not far from London, and 2 Irish parents. I was born in 1946, just after the war. The war had just finished, and yeah, so there's a marvelous monument down in Middleton in Cork, put up because of I don't know if I pronounce it, the Cowtow Indians sent over money to Ireland during the famine. And I don't know how they got money together, because they would have been treated terrible in America at that time. So, but they sent over money, and there's a beautiful monument. I've seen it down in Middleton in Cork to the Cowtow Indians. So, and for me, the Irish had a very similar fate to what the Red Indians had. Our language was taken away from us, and we had to change religions and everything, very similar to what you were sharing there, Uwe. Yeah. And I was born in Romford in Essex, just outside where your man was, not far from. He's gone, I think. But anyway, so, and I'm not saying everybody like me had the same angst and that, but I had it going all through my life, all through my young years and everything, that we were second-class citizens in England. And I could sort of get away with it because I had an English accent, but my mum and dad couldn't. And so I was, it was cat really. I mean, how could I? But from a young age, I was fighting a battle, you know? And that's the way it was with me. And I just had that head on me. And yeah, so it was, that was the way it was for me. And I believe that this is what I believe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right, but I think that I wasn't born an alcoholic, but I was born into a family that passed the head on of an alcoholic, or a head that needs alcohol to survive in the world. And that's what I think. I think I've got my dad's head diluted a bit with my mum's head, but I've still got that trait where I was awkward, rebellious, and just didn't fit in, you know. So I never fitted in. And so it was my birthday last week. I was 29 years in the rooms last Wednesday. And in that 29 years, I've been constantly trying to work out how my head can fit into the world without alcohol. And I mean, giving up drink was fierce, difficult for me, but it's been nothing like fitting into the world with the head I have, you know. I mean, it's okay when you're traveling well, but if you're not traveling well, Jesus, I mean, I become a 7-year-old again, you know. So I have to what Mossy was talking about, the headbutt, you know. Yeah, I can understand that. And yeah, it's been that. I was born just outside. I was born in Romford. Romford is a market town in Essex, very close to the East End of London. And I was born in a flat. There must have been a midwife there, but anyway, I was born in a flat to a Mill Park parade on the Victoria Road, right across from the railway station. And yeah, so Dad was present. I don't know how he was present because he wasn't in the pub, but so was Uncle Fergus. And when they heard me crying, Uncle Fergus went out and got me a dummy. That was one of the jokes, stick that in the whore's gob. But anyway, Dad and Fergus were part of my life growing up. And yeah, it was like Euston Station, our house. Later on, we got a council house on an estate, and the whole estate was EastEnders, Cockney, because the East End was blown up during the war, so they were rehousing Cockneys. And we got the house right in the middle of the estate. So we were well known on the estate. And not for all the right reasons, but we were well known. So that was it growing up there and going to Catholic schools, of course. And so we were different. We were different on the estate. And yeah, that was it really. But I was lucky. My dad was a groundwork subcontractor. That's what the Irish did. They aspired to be a subby on the buildings, and it was hard work. Dad was the end of the navvies, you'd call them. And I've got his last pair of hobnail boots here hanging in my kitchen over there. They're a work of art. They're just incredible pair of boots. And yeah, so that was the house we grew up in. And Mum was Donegal and Dad was Galway. And our house was like a little posting station. You came to Auntie Betty or Uncle Paddy Joe if you were coming from Ireland, and we all moved up in the bed. So I had uncles and cousins from both counties moving up in the bed, and it was great. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I had an Uncle Colum. He was full of pishrogues and great stories of Jesse James. It was incredible, but they were all drinkers, heavy drinkers, all of them. And there was everything in the house: laughter, camellias, gatherings of family, and there was fights. There was huge fights. Dad and Fergus, his brother, the two of them, they were killing one another like it was wow, it was horrendous. And us little kids, trying to keep them apart. So I grew up in that, and I know where it came from because Dad was born in 1915, and the town I live in the town he was born now in West Galway, and the auxiliaries were still in this town, and we were still under rule from England, at that time. So he went, and so did Mum. They knew that, and so it was a kind of a strange upbringing, really. Strange. I didn't think it was strange, but it was strange. Now I know it was a strange upbringing. And yeah, so that was it. Anyway, Dad earned enough money to send us over to Ireland every year, and I got a great love of Ireland and the hills of Donegal mainly because all the Galway crowd had left. And I learned to be a good help to them on the little hillside farm. Geez, you wouldn't call it land. It'd be kind of commonage. It wouldn't be great land, but they actually living out of this incredible land, very self-sufficient, and I loved it. And I used to come over when I was working, then come over for a few months during the summer. So I knew the crack, and I just couldn't wait to come back and live in Ireland, which I'm really glad I did. I did it in 73. And got married and had children. And in 84, I bought a pub. And during that previous time, everyone thought that if I was going to Ireland, I wouldn't survive because I was drinking heavy as a young lad in England. And drinking, and driving cars. I don't know how many cars I crashed and wrote off I wrote off a little Mini Cooper when I was about 22, driving down a dual carriageway. I fell asleep, absolutely ossified and knackered tired. And I ran over a sign in the middle of the verge and ended up on the other side of the road, went right through the traffic going the other way, in between two trees. And had to get something to pull the old little Mini out. It was right off, it was gone. And I presume it's because I was so drunk I didn't hurt myself, I just flopped around. Another time, I bought a beautiful 190 SL sports car, Mercedes sports car with soft top. And I wrote that off as well on the same arterial coming the other way from London. And my head went through the windscreen. And I had I've got a lot of mosaics, markings on my face. I got these, I have these at the moment because I've had cataract operations, but that happened to me when I was only 24 and I was fierce self-conscious. I got some Buddy Holly big black glasses and tried to hide behind them. But anyway, that was my life, just drinking and just being an awkward person, I just never fitted in until I came amongst my own, I always, well, then they were just as cracked as I was. All my cousins were cracked as I was, the ones in England and the ones here in Ireland. So there was a comradeship there that we just didn't have to pretend any other way, that it didn't matter if we were drunk or sober. We were all very similar. I think we all had the heads passed on by our kith and kin, So that was it. Came over here in 73, bought a pub in 84. My up to then I'd been just trying to rear a family, and not all Ireland. I'd go up to the match and spend the week up in Dublin, ossified, drunk, and things like that. I was always a great man going to matches. And in fairness, my dad used to bring me to a lot of matches in England too, or the GAA games. And yeah, I was always a big follower of sport, and still am. So that was it, really. The pub was bought in 84, and I just became a daily drinker. That was it, It was like it's like when you have a pub, you think you're not paying for it, you just turn around, you can have anything you like. Brandy and port was mentioned tonight. And I became a connoisseur. I was like a chemist, because I smoked like a trooper. So if my throat was just raw and you couldn't cough up anything but blood, rum and black, you'd enjoy a cigarette again. If you had heartburn, it was vodka and soda. And then just brandy. Brandy was like a medicine on its own. But it was porter. I just adored Guinness. Yeah. And it was funny having an English accent in Ireland. If you went into a pub and I wasn't known in it, if I asked for a pint of Guinness, I'd get a tourist pint. I don't think maybe they have them now, but that time they did. It was the tap that wasn't being used very often. And Guinness needs a good pour all the time. You can't have good Guinness unless you've got a good pour. And I'd get the tourist tap, so I'd have to wait around, get a bottle of beer until I found out what tap they'd be drinking from. But that's okay, Yeah, that was it. And I was kind of an Egypt behind the counter as well, I'd be okay until everybody knew I was drunk, And me thinking, that putting on a voice where you try and be sober and you're not. It kind of sounds almost like a comedy act. But that was it, Falling asleep when the pub would be closed, still drinking. I was lived above the house at the pub, and if I couldn't sleep, down to the pub and drink. And that was it. Until one night in 96, it was a darts night. I used to have darts nights, and one of my children asked me to bring home one of his mates. And I said, tell his father to fucking come and pick him up. He never picks him up. And all he said to me was, mind would Owen, I'll hear you saying that. And I just couldn't take it. A simple little thing like that. How dare you talk to your dad like that? I wasn't drunk, but I was well oiled, you know. And the old head went, and I did a silly thing. I did damage to both my wrists, punching out windows in the kitchen. And I had to be hospitalized with tendon trouble. And I was in the regional there in Galway for 5 days, and no one came to visit me. And then my brother came in and said, listen, they don't want you home unless you go to an AA meeting. And my wife at the time had been going to Al-Anon, and she'd organised a meeting with Liam Curley. I'm sure Mossy knows Liam Curley. He was a councillor in Ballinasloe. And they organised the meeting. This is before I did that, you know. So there was a meeting between Liam Curley, my wife, and my eldest. And they spoke about what it was like living with me to this complete stranger. And I was absolutely disgusted with the two of them, that they could talk about me in front of a complete stranger. Whereas, you know, you just kept the dark secrets to yourself. And anyway, that was maybe 6 months before I did this thing in the pub and hospitalised. And 2 members in Canberra, I'm sure Mossy knows them, Eugene and Michael C. There were 2 members that are 2 real stars, you know. They brought me to meetings. I'd be in the back of the car with a big puss on me, not listening to anything. But I listened to them going along in the car. But I'd go to a meeting and I wouldn't hear half of it. And I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic. I wouldn't put my head up. And some Pats there, what Mossy was talking about there, it was a pass-on meeting. So you asked to share and you'd pass it on to whoever, you know. And one end of the room was non-smoking, and the other end was smokers, and I was down the end of the smokers and right down the back. And so if you had kept your head down, you'd never be asked, and that was perfect for me. I wonder now at people sharing at their first meeting sometimes at Plume. I think it's incredible. It couldn't be me. But anyway, I never went out again. And it just started working for me. Just the meetings started working for me. I've never not gone to meetings. I've never gone. I'm sure I have 3 or 4 meetings every week since I came in 29 years ago. And I get more if I'm going through bad stuff. I've gone through a bad couple of years now. And I'm coming out of it. Thank goodness I'm coming out of it. And I really appreciate Mossy. I met him there a few months ago with his lovely daughter, Kathleen, at our meeting in Canberra. And shortly after that, he sent me a message about this meeting. And yeah, so I'm coming out of it. Oh, thank goodness I'm coming out of it. The thing that started it was, I'm just going to tell it briefly. That pub, I held on to it with, I'm working class. I'm working class. I love working class people. I just love working class people. I'm a real lefty. And I held on to that business. I don't know how I held on to it. It was another little miracle, but I did, because the marriage went in the first year and she was like a solicitor. I'm not saying she wasn't. She had every right to be like a solicitor. She got me everything from me. And but I held on to everything. I held on to the pub anyway. And I sold it there this last 2 years. It's taken me to sell it. And the whore of a neighbour wouldn't give me a little document saying I had rights of ways to do my maintenance of the eaves shoots, this, that, and the other. And I lost a little fortune over it. And because I lost it and the way I was brought up, I wanted to kill the whore. I really literally wanted to kill him. And I was told I couldn't pray for him. For fuck's sake, I couldn't pray for him. And I told my sponsor, and I love this fella. He's been there since I came in. I just couldn't do it. So I had a really tough year and a half, 2 years almost. And the worst whore I met was myself. I was just kept knocking why did you do that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? It was really terrible. But anyway, it's sold now. Only the last few weeks it's sold after almost 2 years on the market. And I lost a third of the value of it. And it really hurt because I have 5 adult children and I was going to give them a lift up with everything in life. That's the way things have gone. But they'll still get a lift up, but no, it won't be as good. So that's it. I still want to kill the whore. Because there's a graveyard out the back here, an old ancient graveyard. I wouldn't even have to, no one would know. Anyway, I need to share that every now and then, so I don't want to kill him, you know, because that's not the way. It's not the way I've learned in AA. But that's it. I'm doing better. I live in the most beautiful part of the world, and I'm starting to open my eyes again and realize it, because I was closed for the last 2 years. And it didn't do my health any good either. Doesn't do your health, well, it doesn't do my health any good if I'm angst all the time and tension in my body, ready to pounce, ready to headbutt. I'm going to leave it there, Mossy. Thanks for asking me.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, resentment. Oh dear, I'm glad I'm away from resentment. I'm glad you're here with this evening, John. It's lovely to have you with us. It's lovely to have someone to travel this journey with me in the early days. You're a good guy, John, and happy anniversary. And happy anniversary to Obey there as well. Both celebrating this month. And of course, we can't forget Mick the Ferret. Because if he manages to stay alive for another 4 days, he'll celebrate 50 years. I don't know how he's done it, but I know that I've been carrying him the last few anyways. But there you go. Take it away, Mick.
That must be the answer, Mossy, that you've been carrying me. See, my first sponsor, he told me I had to be in meetings half hour before they started and then be one of the last to leave. And I said, why? And he said, because they might want you to do something in the meetings. And they did in the end. You know, they put me into service. I didn't volunteer. You didn't volunteer in those days. You were told, you will do this. And you did it. And it was like a step ladder. You know, you went up the steps. You know, you were like tea washer and smoker. Talk about smokers. Do you remember when the rooms used to fill with smoke when you first went, when they smoked in there? And then they brought out, you know, half the room was no smokers and the other half were smokers. And you sat there, all the non-smokers sat by the windows. Guess where all the smoke used to head for? The windows. And I used to laugh my head off, you know, about it all. But ain't we lucky? You know, what a beautiful fellowship. You know, we've got 2 speakers today, 2 different ones, you know, beautiful, 2 different stories, but we identify with them. This identification. See, my sponsor said, you know, to me, you know, look for similarities, not the differences. And anybody who shares, I listen. And as soon as they say, my name is, and I am an alcoholic, I identify it straight away. You know, that's me. I took a drink and I couldn't stop. That's me. You know, keeping it simple, you know. And I'm a lucky bloke. 4 days time. But I've still got to carry on after. It don't just make me cure me just like that because I've done 50 years. It says in our book, doesn't it? You know, it's an ongoing program. We need to practice it daily, and that's what it's about. Anyway, that's enough for me. You've got We have come to the end of the meeting, and Carol's going to do the promises.
Thank you. The ninth step promises, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They always materialize if we work for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol, for the promises. Thanks, Jane, for the preamble. Kathleen, the timer. Thank you, Mick, for joining us today. And of course, thank you, Ove and John, for two fantastic chairs for keeping us sober today. I really appreciate you joining us both today. And Nick, you'll have to stop screwing up, okay? Just one speaker a day is enough.
All right, mate. Sorry. Reminder, we have a meeting, another meeting on 7 days a week. It's at 8:30 in the UK time in the morning. We also have a lunchtime meeting every Sunday at 1 p.m. UK time. This is a meditation meeting on, oh God, that's you know more.
And Saturdays at 6 o'clock, we have the Old Timers meeting, an extended share recorder for our archives. And on Thursdays, we've a meeting at 7:30 p.m. UK time. We use the same meeting code for all our meetings. And guys, as you've seen the post that went up there, we're online on Christmas morning at 8 o'clock. And we stay online until 10 o'clock that night. And we might go on a bit later. We'll have to wait and see. That's it.
Stick around for fellowship after the meeting. If you want a breakout room after the meeting, please let the host know.
And the yellow card, who you see here?
What you hear here.
When you leave here,
let it stay here.
Thank you both. And thanks everybody. And I'll unmute John and Ove, and you can kick off with the serenity prayer between you.
Grant me serenity to accept the things we cannot
change.
Courage to
change the things I
can. And the wisdom to know
and a happy Christmas to everybody.
Happy Christmas,
Barney.
Thanks so much.